Okay, just going to let folks trickle in. Thank you so much for joining us today. Share my screen. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I think we'll get started. So today's webinar is Be Ready Floods, and this session is part of the Prepared Together 2025, the Canadian Red Cross Disaster Preparedness Virtual Learning Series. As Canadians anticipate more complex and challenging emergency events, the Canadian Red Cross is committed to helping individuals and communities prepare for, adapt to, and respond to disaster risks throughout the year. We will be hosting sessions throughout 2025 in both English and French to support your preparation for emergencies all year long. And to learn more about the series, we will be dropping our webpage link in the chat momentarily. And I also just wanted to share a few housekeeping items before we begin. Today's webinar is recorded and uploaded onto our YouTube channel. We will share the link to our YouTube playlist along with our recording with all registrants after our webinar. Closed captioning is also available to you in both English and French. Just click the closed captioning button in your Zoom control panel at the bottom of your screen. At the end of today's session, we will also have a Q&A period. So you can leave your questions either in the Q&A box in the control panel or simply engage with our facilitators through the chat button as well. And there will be a feedback survey that launches on your browser once you exit today's webinar, and we will really appreciate any input you have on how we did today. And if you have any questions at all about today's programming in general, please email us at rrr@redcross.ca. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies has seen fundamental principles which we also honor in Canada. Interestingly, these principles align with Indigenous peoples of Canada's 7 sacred teachings. Where I reside on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe peoples, these are also known as the grandfather teachings of wisdom, love, respect, bravery, honesty, humility, and truth. Now, without further ado, I'm very pleased to invite our facilitators, Anna Shawisky and Patricia Vargas, to join us on screen. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Okay. So whoops. Start video. Okay. So I have put my land acknowledgement in the chat, and I invite you all to do the same. I want to welcome you to the Be Ready webinar on floods. And I thank you for your interest in joining us today. I am a 21-year veteran volunteer with the Red Cross, starting out in Prince Edward Island and now in Ottawa. And yeah, been involved with the Be Ready program for a few years now. And I'm going to hand it over to Patricia to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I am Patricia Vargas. I have been with Red Cross for 4.5 years. I am a safety and well-being responder, and I am also a PDA and an ERT supervisor, which means I go out on the road every time there is an emergency. Little one like a house fire or a big one like a wildfire. Yes, that's it. Being with Red Cross has been one of the greatest things I've done. It fills me with joy and pride. And I would advise anybody who wants to volunteer to join us. So let's go.
Okay, so April, you want to just give yourself a shout out?
Thanks, Anna. And hi, everyone. I'm April. I am the producer for this webinar series, and so glad to be learning alongside all of you, and especially from our fantastic facilitators today. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, April. Okay, so if you want to take a moment and share in the Zoom chat, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen, your land acknowledgement, please do so. We welcome that. So without any further ado, I think probably you would know that the Red Cross is one of the largest humanitarian organizations on the planet. There are different national societies of the Red Cross, and currently there are 191 of them throughout the world, Red Cross and Red Crescent societies. So for our mission here in Canada, what we do is help people and communities within the country and around the world in times of need and support them in strengthening their resilience. We respond to the needs of communities across the country, whether we help people who had to evacuate after a major flood, to help prepare children to be safe and confident and prepared if they are home alone during an emergency, or teaching people vital life-saving skills. We at the Red Cross are there to ensure that basic needs and are met regardless of who you are and where you are in Canada. So for our emergency response in the country, on average, we assist 34 people across Canada every day who are impacted by a personal disaster. In 2023, we supported more than 81,000 in Canada after an emergency. You know, every time I see these statistics, I'm just sort of blown away and think, boy, we got an awful lot of people working to help and assist people who are in trouble because of a disaster. So we're talking about house fires that Patricia mentioned, floods, whether it's floods in your basement or floods like the ones that happened in Calgary, for example, in 2013. You know, so it's really important that we are all prepared. Now, around the world, we work with our partners and we focus on improving the health of mothers, newborns, and young children, as well as responding to the needs of communities impacted by disasters, conflicts, or public health emergencies. So we're certainly pretty busy when it comes to assisting people, not only within our own country, but around the world. I want to mention just one thing. It's maybe something, you know, it's kind of personal. Here in Ottawa in 2017 and 2019, we had severe flooding along the Ottawa and Rideau rivers, and a lot of people were affected. You know, we were helping people. Many people had cottages along the river, but there were an awful lot of people who had their primary residences. And I think it's safe to say that home flooding events are on the rise, and also extreme rainfall events have become much more common because of climate change. And really, it's the climate change that is contributing to an increase in home flooding events throughout the country. So what are you going to learn during this session? We're going to talk about how to prepare for a flood and reduce your risk using the 4 steps that we have identified, and we're going to discuss what to do during and after a flood. I should mention that the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation, which is located at the University of Waterloo here in Ontario, they're the subject matter expert on floods in Canada, and they're the ones who mainly provided the content for this webinar. So I think April may have mentioned this already, but there will be a number of links either through the chat or at the end of this particular webinar. And those links will be shared with you all. So I see we already have one up here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if April, you could move the slide to how to prepare your household for floods in 4 steps, that'd be great. All right. 4 easy steps. And it's easier than you think. We're going to talk about knowing the risk, how to make a plan, building an emergency kit, and finally building a network. So between Patricia and me, we are going to be looking at all three of these steps, and I'm going to start off with knowing the risks. And as we know, knowledge, information is a powerful thing, but please remember that not every community or household are at the same risk of flooding. Understanding how floods affect your own community where you live, it really is a crucial first step in becoming better prepared. So in this section, we're going to talk about what is a flood. I know that seems kind of simple, but some people aren't too sure what a flood is. What are the major types of flooding? What are the flood impacts on homes? How to understand your flood risk? Where to get information before and during a flood, very important. And what are the shared responsibilities if you're in this kind of a situation? So let's move to the next slide about what is a slide, April. Sorry, what is a flood? Sorry. Okay. And the information in here really sort of blew me away when I first looked at it. Floods are the most costly and frequent natural hazard in Canada. And I'm going to give you some more information shortly about how much this costs. All right. And floods occur when it rains heavily or regularly for several hours or days, and this oversaturates the ground. When snow and ice melt on land and in waterways, and this is something that's going to be happening very shortly in many of our communities, and during hurricanes or violent storms, ice jams, or even dam failures. Floods are really a natural process that can be useful in the wild, but please remember they can become dangerous when they affect populated areas. So let me just ask a question here very quickly. How many of you in the last 10 years, given where you live, have been affected by floods? And just go to the chat pod and go to your, let me just see now. Do we have a reactions? No. That's funny. We don't have, or just raise your hand. Okay, use your chat and let me know whether in the last 10 years your community has been affected by a flood. Well, I'm going to put my hand up because it has.
I don't think we have the hand raise feature on.
We don't. Okay, okay, that's unfortunate. Okay, so maybe in the chat just say yes or no.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Anybody? Yes, Laura. Thank you, Laura. Anybody else been affected by floods in your community in the last 10 years? Not in Canada, but in Brazil. Thank you, Bernardo. More than one time in the last 10 years. Yeah, yeah. It really certainly has an effect on, on the whole community. Yes, in Afghanistan. Thanks, Syed. My goodness. All right. West of Montreal. Yes, absolutely, Guy, in the Montreal Island. So, so that's really, it's important to know what kind of flooding or what kind of types of flooding we encounter. Thank you. From India, currently living, yes, in India. Yeah. Okay. So here are the 4 major types of flooding. And if you want to keep on adding to the chat pod whether or not you've been affected by floods in the last 10 years, excellent. So we have river flooding, coastal flooding or storm surge, rainfall flooding, and groundwater flooding. So in terms of river flooding, we know that many rivers will overflow seasonally when homes are built close to the rivers. And, here's one that probably was built very close to a river. There is a risk of pooling or fast flowing water entering the home through every gap, nook, cranny, whatever you want to, however you want to describe it, every window, door, basements, etc. The second type of flooding is coastal flooding or storm surge. And we know that climate change, which is associated with sea level rise and more intense storms, is really a contributing factor to the risk of coastal flooding in some communities. Again, water will pool around a home. They'll enter the same way through any sort of gaps above ground, cracks in the windows, etc. Rainfall flooding, water from rainfall pools around your home and enters above the ground through gaps and cracks in windows, doors, and other openings. I have a personal example here. When I lived on Prince Edward Island, it was the Easter weekend, and it started pouring on Good Friday and didn't stop raining for 3 or 4 days. The ground was still frozen, and I had water in my basements. The sump pump wasn't working very well, and I had water coming through cracks in my basement. So you
Wow.
can imagine that it just rained and rained and rained and rained, and yeah, I got a new sump pump after that. But that's important to make sure that you're aware of this kind of flooding and the risk within your community. And finally, we have groundwater flooding. Water enters the home below the ground through any kind of crack, and it can also seep through the foundation. We had an awful lot of that along the Ottawa River during the 2019 flooding. People who lived really close to the river, and the water started coming up through their basements. Okay, so we've got a few quizzes here that we're going to see whether or not you can give us the answers for these. And here's the first quiz. What do you think is the most common type of flooding in Canada? And we have 4 choices: groundwater flooding, coastal flooding or storm surge, river flooding, or rainfall flooding. So use your chat, please, on the right-hand side of your screen, and let me know, either type in the name or put down 1, 2, or 3.
Or 4.
Thank you, Sayed. Oh, sorry, 4. There's 4. Okay, so we have 2, we have 4. We have 4 again. Anybody else? Let's see if we can get everybody to respond to this question. What do you think is the most common type of flooding in Canada? Okay. So for those of you who said 4, you're absolutely right. Rainfall flooding is the most common type of flooding in Canada. Now, as I mentioned previously, floods are the most common and costly disasters in Canada in terms of property damage. And the potential for flood damage is really high where there is development in low-lying, flood-prone lands. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard in communities, well, they were building on a floodplain. Well, right then and there, there probably will be a problem if mitigation hasn't been set up. So just for your information, and really let these numbers sink in, over 50% of home insurance costs are attributed to flooding. It's a lot. The average cost of homeowners to repair damage caused by basement flooding in Canada is $43,000. And again, this is from the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation at the University of Waterloo. The average family loses 7 days of work time recovering from a flood. And that's, I think, just an initial amount of time. I'm sure it's probably more. Now, in locations with repeated flood losses, the likelihood that individuals will be unable to pay mortgages and unable to qualify for flood insurance increases. And that's something that people really need to know about. If you're in a floodplain, if there's going to be repeated flood losses, you know, the 100-year flood comes every second year or something. The likelihood is that people won't be able to get the flood insurance or that they need, or it increases exponentially. Any questions so far? Okay, so we have another quiz. And here's the question. Do you live in a high-risk flood area? So in the chat, indicate like in a high-risk flood area now, where you are right now. So it's either yes, no, or you don't know. So share your answers in the chat, please. Do you live in a high-risk flood area? Thank you, Bernardo. No.
Mm.
Anybody else? He says yes. Yes, if you're on the island of Montreal, yes, I would think so. And Laura doesn't know. Don't know. Okay. Flood risks are really unique to each community and for each home and property. They can occur in any region, whether it's rural or urban, and at virtually any time of the year. Floods have affected hundreds of thousands of people in Canada over the years. I was in Calgary in 2013 for the devastating floods there, it was unbelievable, the amount of damage that occurred in Calgary at that time. Most homes are at risk of flooding due to increasing heavy rainstorms and plumbing leaks. Who would have thought, huh? Plumbing. About 5% of Canadian homes are exposed to additional structural damage risks associated with flooding and erosion from rivers, lakes, and oceans. If you live on the coastal areas, that's an area that will also be prone to flooding. The risk of water damage obviously is different for everyone, and it depends on where you live, the weather that you have, and other factors. So if April, you can bring up the map here. You can find out if you live in a high-risk flood area with the flood risk maps of Environment and Climate Change Canada per province and and territory. Okay. So here is an example in Ontario, and this is the Ottawa River Valley here, and it is prone to a lot of flooding, and of course, a lot of it comes from northern part of the province. In addition, you can complete online a free home flood risk assessment, which has been developed by the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation, and it helps you as a resident identify unique risks at your home. And thank you very much, April. Oh, no, that's not it. Do you have the Intact Center Climate Adaptation link?
I can certainly share that too. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so you can touch base with their website and see how you can get a free home flood risk self-assessment. Excellent. Okay, so knowing where to get information and how to stay informed is really essential for any kind of a disaster. And for flooding, knowing what's happening beforehand, during a flood, and after a flood is key for you to be prepared for any kind of, whatever the damage might be. One of the primary sources of information is your local area, your municipality, or your community. You can call or you can visit their website and find out the type of services that are offered. There would be local alert systems, evacuation procedures available on those websites as well. How many of you are on social media? Just go to the chat and let me know yes or no. How many of you are on social media? It's another, that's another primary source. Yeah, I'm on. Thank you. Another primary source of information. People will share information in real time, and that's really what you want to do. You want to either watch TV, listen to the radio, read newspapers. But again, the real time aspect of it is so important. And although you could call 311 and find out more information, that line may be pretty well jammed if there's a major flood in your community. Listen to the local news and weather reports. Sign up for weather alerts. I have signed up for weather alerts here in Ottawa and on my phone especially. And then of course there's the Government of Canada WeatherCan mobile app and also the Weather Network mobile app, which again I also have access to. There are in fact governmental sources, floods, forecast and monitoring in Canada. I'm not too sure, April, whether or not you have the link on that, but go to Natural Resources Canada for that, and also coastal flooding prediction and alerting program. There'll be storm surges in Quebec, Nunavut, and Northwest Territories, and the Yukon. So there are an awful lot of both government and non-government sites that you can go to be prepared. Please remember, that if your local library is open, you will have free access to the internet as well. Okay. So before I hand it over to Patricia, I just want to make sure that you understand that all levels of government are working to reduce the impact of floods, but those of us around the table today and everybody who who is a homeowner, for example, or a cottage owner, or even if you don't own a home, we all play an important role. We all have a responsibility to protect our homes, to protect our property, protect our families against flooding. And whether you rent or own, residents are responsible for managing the risks to privately owned property, such as homes, properties, and personal belongings. Then there's a big difference between property owners' responsibility for reducing the risk of damage to their lots and buildings, and those of you who rent. All right, tenants are generally responsible for reducing the role of damage to their personal belongings, but if they're living in a building, that's the responsibility of the owner of that building if they're renting in that building. Okay. Obviously, purchasing tenant insurance will help replace damaged belongings and perhaps cover some emergency accommodations. But that's just remember that typically these are not covered by the landlord. And I can't tell you how many times when I go on a PDA call and people think that the landlord is going to be paying for things that they have lost in a fire or in a flood. And it's a hard reality, unfortunately. Any questions? There's lots of information on the chat there on the right-hand side of your screen. Now I'm going to hand it over to Patricia, who's going to talk about making a plan.
So now we're going to make a plan to prepare for floods, whether it's in your home. It's next one, April, that's the one. Whether it's in your home or in your community, when drawing a plan, we're looking at two things mainly. An emergency plan template you can fill in to make sure you've got everything covered before a flood occurs. Now that we have the luxury of time and we can think about things clearly and with all our family, then we're going to use this time to get prepared and make that plan. We're going to put all the actions we can take before a flood occurs to prepare your home and reduce the risks of flooding. It's like a script. You will write with all the actors involved and you will rehearse it like a play so that everybody knows what they're going to do when a flood occurs or, well, maybe any other emergency. Maybe it's a fire, whatever, but you got a plan. That will give you confidence, certainty, empowerment, and safety to help you bounce back and take care of everybody. So next slide. Before we start, I want you to tell me, what do you think are some practical actions you can do to prepare for a flood? Small flood in your home or a community one at a larger scale? What do you think you can do? Tick tock, you can put it in the chat. Right, Daniel, you have to know your emergency exits out of your community and out of your house. Well, if you live in a house, it's not so much of a problem, but maybe you have a very big building and you have to know how to get out and out of your community. Yeah, well, so next, April. Tailor your plan to floods and the unique needs of you and your household. This is a template, yes, but it should be taken and adapted to your own needs. It's not one size fits all. It doesn't exist such a thing as this is the plan you're going to do. You got to make it your own. If possible, obtain, first of all, insurance with flood coverage. That information would be in that plan. Talk to your insurance provider about your risks and additional steps you can take to protect your home. The Red Cross has a sheet about insurance coverage for floodings and other water insurance claims, and April is going to put it in the chat. Consider also to consult the Red Cross guide on the most common types of insurance policies for all types of disasters, not just floods. So now we know what our risks are and have an idea of the things we can do to prepare for a flood and have an insurance. So what do? We make a plan. Having an emergency plan will help us gather all our essential information. Think ahead of time about what you will do and what you will need in case of a flood. By creating and practicing a plan, you increase your capacity to keep safe during the flood. As we said, you also increase your capability to bounce back. Okay. This template, as I said, is 14 pages long. You're going to check it out and you're going to say, oh my God, this is so big. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's your plan, so you're going to make it as short or as long as you want, so long as you got in it everything that is important to you. I'm not here to discover the wheel. What's important for you? So all the information and documents like health cards, insurances, banking information, copies of foreign passports, I think that should be there, right? And maybe you consider that should be there as well, so put it in it. All places we can stay. Maybe it's one, maybe it's 10 different places that we can stay in case we cannot return home. Yeah, so that should be put in there. Our evacuation plan. Your evacuation plan doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to be very clear. Every minute counts in an emergency, and knowing what to do can truly save your life and that of your loved ones. So, okay, we're talking about floods, but what if it's a fire? How long is going to take me to go from the 11th floor to the ground floor? Have you ever measured it? Have you practiced it? That is what a plan is for, to know all of those little details. Okay. So I'm going to give you some ideas again, because you know best what you are going to include in your plan. So let's say you know your exits. Identify 2 ways of exit for every room. Maybe it's just that window, maybe it's the door. Make sure everyone in the home knows these exits. Pick up a meeting place. As I said, well, it may be one close to your home, maybe your neighbors, if what's flooded is your home, or maybe outside of your community, if what's flooded is your whole community. Yeah. Assign roles to everyone. Because if you have a big family, you have to make sure that everybody knows what their role is in this play. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Even the little ones can have their little role. You're going to pick up your grab and go kit, which Anna is going to talk to you about later. And where are you going to wait for mommy? Or maybe it's your caregiver, or maybe your big brother. But who are you going to wait for? Or what are you going to do? That little person, whether it's 5 years old, 6, 7, or more, must know what to do. And that is why we get everybody on the same page and we practice our plan at least twice a year. Well, let's say if you cannot do that twice a year, at least once a year. Then if you have pets, you want to plan for them. You have the carriers, the leashes. What are you going to do when those pets are out of the house? Most shelters won't take them. It is hard to find a pet-friendly hotel. It may be done, but if that cannot be possible, where is that pet going to go? So all of those things now we can think about, but in the middle of an emergency, it's just so stressful. It's so horrible not to know what to do. Yeah. So let's think about it, include it in the plan. Make that person know that they are the ones who are going to take care of the pet if anything happens. Then map your route, because maybe there are many places you can get out of your community. So if this area is flooded, maybe we can take this other route. So just keep it in mind. What if we don't have GPS? Do we have a map? Just an old-fashioned paper map? Maybe we should have it, because that's the sure way we're going to know where we're going, in case there is no internet or any way to find out where we are and from our phone. And again, keep all your contact information handy. That means you have a contact card with all your communication plan using emergency contacts. Yes, so next. Okay, now I insist, this is your plan. Tailor it to your household. Consider whether you live with children, pets, and animals, and individuals with specific needs. Individuals with specific needs, such as a person with mobility, health, or disability considerations, they need special care. This is going to be a moment for us to really help them out. Consider extra time to safely move them out of the house. Consider keeping ready, accessible list of your current medical conditions. That in the plan as well. Treatment, healthcare providers, emergency contacts for them, including substitute decision makers. All of that should be in the plan. If you consider it should be, but I think that's a very good idea. And lastly, gets everybody on the household involved and rehearse it with them. Keep a copy of your emergency plan in your grab and go kit. Give a copy to the caregivers at the daycare, the school, all your contacts that are involved in that plan. They should know, they should have a copy of it, and including the out of town contacts. Let's get everybody on the same page. Yeah. So now let's go to the next slide, April. We're going to talk about some actions we can take to get prepared. We got a plan. That is a big one, but thinking about floods, what exactly can we do? Practical actions we can take to minimize the risks of flooding in our home. So there are many things we can do. Here are 6 low-cost actions identified from the dry flood proofing approach to keep a home dry. This approach is based on research findings of Canada's most home flood risks. Here are the basics. It's very simple. Keep water out. Remove it quickly if it gets in, and protect your belongings. So how are we gonna do that? Okay. Preventative action can reduce but not eliminate the risk of flood damage. So we're going to do our best. We may not be able to stop floods from happening, but at least we'll have some chance of minimizing its effects and protecting those we love and the things we have. What is the risk? Number 1, clogged storm drains. Most common in urban areas, ditches and culverts, most common in rural areas can cause water to pool on your property and flood your basement. So how do we reduce that risk? We remove debris from the nearest storm drain, like it's there in the slide. Contact your municipality for repair if water does not drain fully within 24 hours. So you got to check that and let them know. What's our risk number 2? Clogged or broken eave throws or gutters, short downspouts and slump pumps, discharge pipes can deposit water too close to the foundations of the house, increasing the chances that it will pool beside your house and make its way to the basement. So you don't want that. What do? Each season, we clean the gutters and check they're not broken, they're clean and in good standing. Extend your downspouts and sump pumps discharge pipes at least 2 meters away from your foundations or to the nearest drainage swale. Yeah. Then we go to the next one, April. Inside your home, you can remove water as quickly as possible. This is number 2. What is the risk? During a flooding event, a blocked floor drain will increase damage by preventing water from exiting your basement. Of course, it will quickly flood completely. So how do we reduce that risk? We remove any items that are blocking the flow of water to your floor drain, just like you see in this slide. Remove debris from the drain as needed. Review twice a year to properly manage any newly stored items and check for signs of drain blockage. So number 4, what is the risk? Well, pipes below the ground around the foundation of the home, known as foundation drains, collect water from the soil and deposit it into a sump pit inside the basement. Some pumps normally pump water out of the house to keep its basement dry. If the sump pump stops working, the sump pit will overflow and this water will pour into the basement, causing a flood. How do we reduce that risk? We check our sump pumps each season to make sure that it's functioning properly. Install and maintain a backup power supply to keep your pump functioning in the event of power outage, which I'm telling you, this is one of the most common things. We lose power. It is one of the main things that happens in any emergency. Consider installing a backup sump pump, an alarm to further reduce that risk. Installing a backup pump and alarm may qualify for insurance discount. So it is an investment. It is indeed. So let's go to the next one. We're going to go to number 5. What's the risk? During a flood, all valuable stores on the basement are at risk of water damage. So obviously we don't want to have something destroyed because of the water damage. If hazardous materials leak into the flood waters, they can greatly increase the cleanup cost of your property and impact the local areas. Yeah, how do we reduce that? We place valuable items and hazardous materials like paints, pesticides, and things like that. In watertight containers and raise them 30 centimeters above the floor. I'm saying 30 centimeters, but you may consider even a higher ground. Just don't let them on the floor. So what's the risk? Number 6, during a flood, all items that come into contact with water have a potential to be damaged. So how do we reduce that risk? Select furniture with water-resistant legs, like metal or plastic, and raise electronics 30 centimeters off the floor. I'm saying 30 centimeters, but it may even be higher. Consider selecting items that are easily to wash in case of a flood. For example, select washable area rugs instead of wall-to-wall carpeting. Obviously. Okay, here in the chat, have we already put the Canadian Red Cross flood risk reduction pamphlet and summarize these 6 actions? I cannot read it in the chat, so I hope it's there. Now, let's suppose even though you did all of these and your home is still at risk of being flooded, what should you do during a flood emergency? Electricity and flooding, what to know? Electricity and water don't mix. If flooding is likely, shut off your power, but only if it's safe and dry to do so. Otherwise, prioritize your safety and leave it to professionals. Before water gets into your home, and if it is safe to access your electrical panel, turn it off. Turn all the main power switch off, all the circuit breakers to prevent electrical shock or fire. Important tip again, do not touch the electrical panel. If any electrical appliances, if water is already, or any water appliance, if water is already present, like if your feet are on the water, just get out of the house and leave it to professionals. Take your grab-and-go kit and get out of the house. Call your insurance company and call 911 for advice. So now I'm going to leave you with Anna, who is going to talk to you about how to make a kit.
Thanks, Patricia. That's excellent. The other thing I should mention too is electrical, but gas. And you leave that to the professionals, folks. You know, and this is what happened in the two flooding seasons of 2017 and 2019 along the Ottawa River. Those utilities companies, gas, you know, and it was I can't remember who they were. Anyway, they were just so busy turning things off because, you know, it becomes a hazard for you and your family. So thanks for mentioning that about the electricity, Patricia. That's great. All right. So now you know you know what to do when you put together an emergency plan. And as Patricia said, it's very easy. You probably have access to most of the stuff that you're going to be asked in the emergency plan. And as she mentioned, it's better to do it now when you don't need it than doing it during an emergency. Okay, you have the time. If you have any children, get your children involved, you know, because they may also want to put things down for your emergency plan. So let's take a look at the third step, which is building a kit. And as you know, floods may in fact force you to evacuate your home, or you may have to what they call shelter in place, or keep inside for several days, or even longer. And so you may have limited access to things that you rely on a daily basis. You know, we recommend that you keep an emergency preparedness kit in your home with enough supplies for all of your family's needs. And if you have any pets, your pets' needs as well, for at least 3 days, or what we call 72 hours preparedness. All right. So by taking the time now to store the food, water, supplies, and if you're going to be storing it in your basement, please remember, and here's a great picture here, there's a plastic container that is that'll protect you from any flooding if need be. So if you do this now, you are going to be more prepared for any kind of a disaster. I mean, we're talking about floods here specifically, but if there's a fire, these are the sorts of things you're going to have to do beforehand. So we're going to come up with another question, and April's going to bring up the slide about what would be the one item you would like to have during a flood or an emergency. Oh, and I want you to answer in the chat. What's the one thing you would like to have during a flood or an emergency? So share your answer in the chat pod, please. Clean water, yes. Yeah. Anything else? Portable charger. Thank you.
Great one.
Thanks, April. Medications. Absolutely, Bernardo.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, clean water and a portable charger and medication will only get you so far. What else do you think you need? Food. Yes. Thank you, Said. Anything else? Okay, you have this in your kits. Patricia mentioned this in her section about emergency plan. What else are you going to put in your kit? How about those important documents? First aid kit. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah. Yeah. So these are great. These are great examples. Any kind of non-perishable food. If you have cans, what do you think you're going to need? You have some of the food in cans. What will you need to open the cans? Thank you. And it would have to be a manual can opener because for most likely you might not have power. All right. So they're, you know, the ones you go like this, and then the ones you go, there's a little one that's about this big. I remember having those when I was camping as a youngster, and it's a small can opener about this big, and then you just put it along the side of the can. It's a pain in the neck, but it's great to have. Those important documents, cash. Thank you, Daniel. Yes, and it should be small bills. All right. Emergency radio to stay in contact. Yes, and the parent and the ones that are either battery operated or crank operated. The flashlight would be handy as well. First aid kits. Yeah, those are great. Great examples. Yeah. So there are many types and sizes of kits. Patricia mentioned the grab and go kit, where you're asked to leave your home and you've got something that you grab and you go. And obviously you don't want something that weighs an awful lot. A shelter in place kit. You've been asked by the authorities to stay in place, and you need to take care of yourself while you're in your own home. Having a kit in your car, or even having a kit at your workplace, these are all good ideas for types of kits. But please remember that the items should include those that are linked to warmth, water, and food. Right? They must be personalized, just like your emergency plan. Your kit must be personalized to your own context and your needs. And as I said, if you have kids, get them involved in this as well. We have a checklist that we encourage you to use to build your kit, and April will share that link as well. In terms of medications, it's always good to have extra medications, but also a list of your medications as well, right? So you want to choose the right container for your kit to ensure that it's well protected, that it's waterproof, and it's portable. As I mentioned, you don't want to have a trunk and having to pull that around. All right. Pack rain gear, any kind of waterproof boots, warm clothing. You want to seal individual items, those important documents, for example, any meds, any smaller items that should be in Ziploc bags or vacuum sealed pouches to protect them from water damage. Thank you very much, April. April has put up the checklist to build a kit in English and in other languages down at the bottom. Excellent. So remember, any items that you're going to add to this kit, you want to remember that they don't weigh an awful lot, but that they best suit your needs or your family's needs, okay? So think about what kind of items, extra items, apart from the ones that you've already mentioned in the chat pod, that you would include, and anything that's unique to you and your household. Think about those items that you can't be without. For me, it'll be my glasses, okay, because I can't see a thing without my glasses. If you wear contacts, make sure you have extra contacts and, of course, the solution that you need for contacts as well. In terms of baby supplies, nothing worse than leaving the house without enough diapers, enough formula, enough food and toys for your babies. If you have younger children, have one of the favorite toys. Absolutely, yeah. Each child could have their own favorite toy. Absolutely. If you wear hearing aids, some hearing aids you can charge using batteries, or you can charge using a USB port. So those are the sorts you want to think about: dentures, diabetes supplies, walkers. Pet food for your pets. Make sure that you have enough to last for at least 3 days, 72 hours. Okay. And please remember, when we go out on deployments and we help people, we take things that make us feel comfortable as Red Cross volunteers, but also for those people who are under the stress of a disaster of some kind, in this case, floods, take things that comfort you, right? If playing cards, playing solitaire is something that you like to do, take those cards. If you have a series of photos that you like to have, a favorite mug, a favorite pillow, all of those sorts of things, they should be included as well. You know, building that emergency kit doesn't have to be expensive. You know, see what items you already have. Make a priority list, shop during the sale. The dollar store or Dollarama has things that you can pick up there. Check with your friends, your family, to see whether or not they have something that you might need as well. And as I said, it's simple to put together. Use the checklist to build a kit, and make sure that it's according to the needs of you as an individual or your family. It's just like the plan. It has to be unique to you. My plan and my kit is very different from April's, very different from Patricia's, and very different from everybody around the table here today. So because I have different needs, I have different wants, you know, than you would have. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Patricia to talk about building a network. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel just mentioned that if you have younger children, have one of their favorite toys in your emergency kit. That is absolutely brilliant, because you're going to have a lot of downtime. And as Anna said, you may include in your grab and go kit some cards, an old book that you always wanted to read again and you never have the time, just put it in there. Old glasses, when you just get a new formula, don't put them in the drawer, put them in your grab and go kit, because old glasses are better than no glasses. Get some money, cash money. So if, as I said before, you lose electricity and you lose internet, you still have means to pay. And your map, and don't get carried away, because as Anna said, you're gonna have to take your grab and go kit out. So if it's so huge that you cannot go out of the stairs with it, then it's not good. It's not good. You're not gonna be able to take it out. So now we have, next slide, we're gonna build a network. Yes. Having support from others is important, and it's essential to get help when you need it. So you're not alone. There are available resources and people who care for you. It's a community, your family, your friends, your neighbors, community organizations, cultural organizations, places of worship, and healthcare providers. We live in Canada, right? So there is going to be a good support network. Next one. In an emergency, though, our neighbors are often our first responders. But we kind of lost that connection. So connecting with your neighbors is one of the best ways to make your community more resilient. You can use these templates, the Red Cross bookmark, get connected, to just start a conversation with a neighbor. But of course, this is up to you, your own style, your own way of doing things. Maybe you want to bake some cookies and go to your neighbor, start a conversation. Let's make a community, not just for an emergency, but for life, to make life richer, fuller, to have a network around us, be able to help and be able to receive help, stay connected. Yeah. You can discuss with your network all your flood safety preparations that you've learned today and that you're going to get home and do them today. And you can talk with your family and neighbors about what you would do in a flood. Know who is at risk in your network. Check on vulnerable family members, friends, or neighbors who may require special assistance, because you may be the one person who's going to save a life. See, so go to the next one. So now let's suppose our neighborhood is flooded or at a very high risk of being flooded. What should we do? What do you think you should do? If it's been raining for 3 days in a row and our risks of being in the middle of a flood are going up and up, what should we do? Please put it in the chat. What do you think you should do? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, guys, what should you do? Listen to local radio. Watch your news, as Anna said, for possible flood warnings and reports of floods in progress. Don't isolate yourself. Follow local authorities' instructions. If they ask you to evacuate, don't think about it. This is not a, well, maybe you know. If you're asked to evacuate, you do evacuate. You follow your plan. Everybody knows what they got to do, what they've got to do, and they're grabbing their bags and we evacuate. Be prepared to evacuate at the moment's notice, because floods give us some warning, but sometimes it's very short. When a flood or a flash flood warning is issued for your area, head for higher ground and stay there. Head for your safe place. Turn around, don't drown, is many times said, meaning avoid walking or driving through flood water. If you cannot see how deep it is not safe. It could be deeper than you think. Be especially cautious at night, because there's no way you know how much the risk, how big a risk it is. Keep always children and pets away from flood water. Flood water is not safe water. Can be contaminated. Most of the times it is contaminated. So we got the next one. Continue to listen to and follow direction for local authorities every moment. Do not return home until you are advised to do so, because it's the only way you know it's going to be safe. Contact your insurance company and let them know what's happening. Remember, you got a very good insurance. So now you're going to make them know that you are needing them. This is their time to shine. They will want to know a record of damage to your home and belongings, and they may request photos and videos. So don't start cleaning up till you get sure you got that. And it's all panoramic and they can see that it is your home and that this and that happened, and you know, it's a good record of it. Maintain good hygiene during the flood cleanup by minimizing contact with flood water. Everything must be done with gloves, and anything have to come in, anything that went in contact with that water, as I said, may be contaminated. So it has to be washed. This is not a small task, but it has to be done. Do not ever use water that could be contaminated. So no, I'll just, this looks clean. It doesn't matter how it looks. You got to make sure that the water you're going to use, especially if you're going to drink of it, is absolutely clean and it doesn't come from the flood. Do not use any appliances like heating, pressure or sewer systems, or any electrical components unless they're absolutely dry and inspected by a qualified electrician. Because you don't know if inside there is water and you're going to get a shock. Check out in the chat the CRC flood recovery guide, which I think is there. Is it? And let's go to the next slide.
I will share it right now.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so today we have learned how to prepare for a flood. And we also need to recognize the need to be prepared to deal with the long-term psychological consequences of flood. It's very stressful. So we got prepared, we make a plan, we rehearsed it twice a year, but still, it is tough. And if you are the head of a household, it can kind of become really, really heavy. The good news is that there are things you can do to cope with stress. First of all, as I said, you are not alone. You are part of a bigger network. Your friends, your family, your neighborhood, your community that you've built around you is going to help you through these times. So get to know the feelings that you are feeling. If you feel physically or mentally drained, have difficulty making decisions or focusing, become easily frustrated, maybe you find yourself arguing with somebody over something that, I mean, what? Or maybe you just feel sad all the time, numb, lonely, anxious, you know. Reflect on that. Know what helps you deal with the stress. But here are some things that may help, but you know yourself best. So you know what to do. You have to isolate yourself. If you have to be sure that you and your loved ones are all safe, to feel safe. Don't hesitate to ask for support and reach out to your network. Stay connected with family and friends. Stay positive and help others. It's amazing how helping other people helps us so much to feel better. Eat healthy foods, of course, drink a lot of water, sleep well, be patient with yourself and with all those people around you. Set priorities and break big tasks into small ones. Okay, I'm not going to clean the house today. I'm going to clean this room. And if we get to half of it, great. But do as much as you can do. Don't overwhelm yourself. If the stress continues, though, seek immediate help. Remember, mental health is health. You can find mental health and emotional well-being resources on the Public Health Agency of Canada. And never ever let yourself feel overwhelmed, like you can cope, like this is better not. Just throw everything away. No. It's got to be a future that is nicer. There will be a future that is nicer. So now we go to next. I forgot who's doing this, Anna, you or me? This is just a recap.
You are doing this. You're finishing it up.
True. So what did we do today? We learned to assess our risks. Then we made an emergency plan, made everybody in that plan on the same page, make them know what their role is going to be, and we practice it twice a year. Then we made the kit with everything that each and every one of us is going to need to go by this emergency in the best way possible. And finally, we're going to build a network and support each other to make it just one adventure. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's just going to be an adventure that we're all going to go through. Yeah, now I want to know if you have any questions, if you've enjoyed it, if you have anything to say to Anna and myself. Not all at once, please.
Yeah, we know
I-
you're still there.
I want to share something with you that happened to me. I was at Hinton last year for the Jasper wildfires, and I was deployed as a safety and well-being responder. Means I just help people feel better, understand them, and listen to them, and I facilitate some resources so they can um, get through these moments. And here comes a lady, it's a really nice lady. She said to me, I can't believe that I did everything by the book because I've seen all these preparations and we knew this was going to happen one day. So I made a plan. We rehearsed it. I made everybody in the house made their grab and go kit. And when the evacuation order came, I wasn't at home, I was at work. So my husband took the two kids and himself out of the house with what I thought had been, the plan. So when I finally got together with them in the shelter, I realized my daughter, my 15-year-old girl, didn't grab her kid. I mean, her brother, her little 8-year-old brother took her kid. Why didn't you take your kid? And the girl said, Mom, I took my Perca. Said, in August. Mom, it's so expensive, you are not going to buy it to me again. So the kid was in August with a Perca and didn't have a toothbrush. So what that tells us, kids are going, you have to ask them what's important for them. You have to know what's important for everyone. And you have to let them have a say. So this kid didn't have underwear, she didn't have a toothbrush, she didn't have anything, but she had her Perca in August. So let's just be flexible. Let's not get mad about it. If that happens, there's Red Cross. They'll get you some toothbrush. Yes, we do. We give out toothbrushes and shampoo and conditioner. We call it a comfort kit. Just in case you don't have. What can we do? Yeah, you have to discard pet food as well. Yes. Anything you want to tell us? Bernardo. Yes, preparation is key. That's absolutely true. And I would say we didn't teach you anything today. We just made you think. We're all going to think about what it may be like for us and how we can help ourselves. We are going to connect with our future self and say, okay, you're going to do this, this, and that. It's so important, especially for kids, to know that you got this. They got this. So when an emergency occurs, they're not going to panic. They're going to be anxious. No, they're going to say, I got this. This is what we're doing. We are preparing ourselves for that moment. So when it occurs, we can say to ourselves, I got this, instead of panicking. No, no need for that.
April, do you want to put the next slide up and just for the resources? I think there's a.
Yeah, most of these resources have already been put in the chat. So you can take a screenshot of them or take them from the chat. It's been a pleasure for me to deliver this Be Ready session for you. I am a volunteer and I do it with all my love.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Patricia. The
Thank
first
you,
time
Anna.
I've co-facilitated with Patricia. And thank you, April. That's excellent.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's good. No health without mental health. Oh, isn't that great? That's great.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
that's
you, everybody.
ChemH. ChemH is a great resource, and that's their motto. That's their slogan. Mental health is health. There's no health without mental health.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everyone for sticking with us to the end, and thanks Anna, and thanks Patricia. And we'll see everyone again really soon for another session.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.